The Book of the Secrets of Enoch, Chapter 1. There was a wise man, a great artificer, and Yahuwah conceived love for him, and received him, that he should behold the uppermost dwellings, and be an eyewitness of the wise and great and inconceivable and immutable realm of Elohim Almighty, of the very wonderful and glorious and bright and many-eyed station of Yahuwah's servants, and of the inaccessible throne of Yahuwah, and of the degrees and manifestations of the incorporeal hosts, and of the ineffable ministration of the multitude of the elements, and of the various apparition and inexpressible singing of the host of cherubim, and of the boundless light. At that time, he said, when my 165th year was completed, I begat my son Methuselah. After this too I lived 200 years, and completed of all the years of my life 365 years. On the first day of the first month I was in my house alone, and was resting on my couch, and slept. And when I was asleep, great distress came up into my heart, and I was weeping with my eyes in sleep, and I could not understand what this distress was, or what would happen to me. And there appeared to me 2 men, exceeding big, so that I never saw such on earth. Their faces were shining like the sun, their eyes too were like a burning light, and from their lips was fire coming forth, with clothing and singing of various kinds, in appearance purple. Their wings were brighter than gold, their hands whiter than snow. They were standing at the head of my couch, and began to call me by my name. And I arose from my sleep, and saw clearly those 2 men standing in front of me. And I saluted them, and was seized with fear, and the appearance of my face was changed from terror. And those men said to me, Have courage, Enoch, do not fear. The eternal Elohim sent us to thee, and lo, thou shalt today ascend with us into Shamayim, heaven, and thou shalt tell thy sons and all thy household all that they shall do without thee on earth in thy house. And let no one seek thee till Yahuwah return thee to them. And I made haste to obey them, and went out from my house, and made to the doors, as it was ordered me, and summoned my sons Methuselah and Regem and Gadad, and made known to them all the marvels those men had told me. Chapter 2. Listen to me, my children. I know not whither I go, or what will befall me. Now therefore, my children, I tell you, turn not from Elohim before the face of the vain, who made not Shamayim and earth, for these shall perish, and those who worship them. And may Yahuwah make confident your hearts in the fear of him. And now, my children, let no one think to seek me, until Yahuwah return me to you. Chapter 3. It came to pass, when Enoch had told his sons, that the angels took him on to their wings, and bore him up onto the first heaven, Shamayim, and placed him on the clouds. And there I looked, and again I looked higher, and saw the ether, and they placed me on the first heaven, Shamayim, and showed me a very great sea, greater than the earthly sea. Chapter 4. They brought before my face the elders and rulers of the stellar orders, and showed me 200 malachs, angels, who rule the stars and their services to the Shamayim, heavens, and fly with their wings, and come round all those who sail. Chapter 5. And here I looked down, and saw the treasure houses of the snow, and the malachs who keep their terrible storehouses, and the clouds whence they come out, and into which they go. Chapter 6. They showed me the treasure house of the dew, like oil of the olive, and the appearance of its form, as of all the flowers of the earth. Further, many angels, malachs, guarding the treasure houses of these things, and how they are made to shut and open. Chapter 7. And those men took me up, and led me up onto the second Shamayim, and showed me darkness greater than earthly darkness. And there I saw prisoners hanging, watched, awaiting the great and boundless judgment. And these malachs, angels, were dark looking, more than earthly darkness, and incessantly making weeping through all hours. And I said to the men who were with me, wherefore are these incessantly tortured? They answered me, these are Elohim's apostates, who obeyed not Elohim's commands, but took counsel with their own will, and turned away with their prince, who also is fastened on the fifth Shamayim. And I felt great pity for them. And they saluted me, and said to me, Man of Elohim, pray for us to Yahuwah. And I answered to them, Who am I, a mortal man, that I should pray for malachs? Who knoweth whither I go, or what will befall me? Or who will pray for me? Chapter 8. And those men took me thence, and led me up on to the third Shamayim, and placed me there. And I looked downwards, and saw the produce of these places, such as has never been known for goodness. And I saw all the sweet flowering trees, and beheld their fruits, which were sweet smelling, and all the foods borne by them, bubbling with fragrant exhalation. And in the midst of the trees, that of life, in that place, whereon Yahuwah rests, when he goes up into paradise. And this tree is of ineffable goodness and fragrance, and adorned more than every existing thing. And on all sides it is in form gold-looking and vermilion and fire-like, and covers all, and it has produce from all fruits. Its root is in the garden at the earth's end. And paradise is between corruptibility and incorruptibility. And two springs come out which send forth honey and milk, and their springs send forth oil and wine. And they separate into 4 parts, and go round with quiet course, and go down into the paradise of Eden, between corruptibility and incorruptibility. And thence they go forth along the earth, and have a revolution to their circle, even as other elements. And here there is no unfruitful tree, and every place is blessed. And there are 300 Malachs, very bright, who keep the garden, and with incessant sweet singing and never silent voices serve Yahuwah throughout all days and hours. And I said, how very sweet is this place. And those men said to me, Chapter 9. This place, O Enoch, is prepared for the righteous, who endure all manner of offense from those that exasperate their souls, who avert their eyes from iniquity, and make righteous judgment, and give bread to the hungering, and cover the naked with clothing, and raise up the fallen, and help injured orphans, and who walk without fault before the face of Yahuwah, and serve him alone. And for them is prepared this place for eternal inheritance. Chapter 10. And those 2 men led me up onto the northern side, and showed me there a very terrible place. And there were all manner of tortures in that place, cruel darkness, and unilluminated gloom. And there is no light there, but murky fire constantly flameth aloft. And there is a fiery river coming forth, and that whole place is everywhere fire. And everywhere there is frost and ice, thirst and shivering, while the bonds are very cruel. And the Malachs, fearful and merciless, bearing angry weapons, merciless torture. And I said, Woe, woe, how very terrible is this place. And those men said to me, This place, O Enoch, is prepared for those who dishonor Elohim, who on earth practice sin against nature, which is child corruption after the sodomitic fashion, magic making, enchantments, and devilish witchcrafts, and who boast of their wicked deeds, stealing, lies, calumnies, envy, rancor, fornication, murder, and who, accursed, steal the souls of men, who, seeing the poor, take away their goods, and themselves wax rich, injuring them for other men's goods, who, being able to satisfy the empty, made the hungering to die, being able to clothe, strip the naked, and who knew not their Creator, and bowed down to soulless, lifeless Elohims, who cannot see nor hear, vain Elohims, who also built hewn images and bow down to unclean handiwork. For all these is prepared this place amongst these for eternal inheritance. Chapter 11. Those men took me and led me up on to the fourth Shamayim, and showed me all the successive goings, and all the rays of the light of the sun and moon. And I measured their goings, and compared their light, and saw that the sun's light is greater than the moon's. Its circle, and the wheels on which it goes always, like a wind going past, with very marvelous speed, and day and night it has no rest. Its passage and return are accompanied by 4 great stars, and each star has under it 1,000 stars, to the right of the sun's wheel, and by 4 to the left, each having under it 1,000 stars, altogether 8,000, issuing with the sun continually. And by day 15 myriads of angels attend it, and by night 1,000. And 6 winged ones issue with the Malachs before the sun's wheel into the fiery flames, and 100 Malachs kindle the sun and set it alight. Chapter 12. And I looked and saw other flying elements of the sun, whose names are phoenixes and chalcodiri, marvelous and wonderful, with feet and tails, in the form of a lion and a crocodile's head. Their appearance is empurpled like the rainbow. Their size is 900 measures. Their wings are like those of Malachs. Each has 12, and they attend and accompany the sun, bearing heat and dew, as it is ordered them from Elohim. The sun revolves and goes, and rises under the Shamayim, and its course goes under the earth, with the light of its rays, incessantly. Chapter 13. Those men bore me away to the east, and placed me at the sun's gates, where the sun goes forth according to the regulation of the seasons, and the circuit of the months of the whole year, and the number of the hours, day and night. And I saw 6 gates open, each gate having 61 stadia, and 1/4 stadium. And I measured them truly, and understood their size to be so much, through which the sun goes forth, and goes to the west, and is made even, and rises throughout all the months, and turns back again from the 6 gates, according to the succession of the seasons. Thus the period of the whole year is finished, after the returns of the 4 seasons. Chapter 14. And again those men led me away to the western parts, and showed me 6 great gates open, corresponding to the eastern gates, opposite to where the sun sets, according to the number of the days, 365 1/4. Thus again it goes down to the western gates, and draws away its light, and the greatness of its brightness under the earth. For since the crown of its shining is in Shamayim with Yahuwah, and guarded by 400 malachs, while the sun goes round on wheel under the earth, and stands 7 great hours in the night, and spends half its course under the earth, when it comes to the eastern approach, in the 8th hour of the night. It brings its lights, and the crown of shining, and the sun flames forth more than fire. Chapter 15. Then the elements of the sun, called phoenixes and chalkdiri, break into song. Therefore every bird flutters with its wings, rejoicing at the giver of light, and they broke into song at the command of Yahuwah. The giver of light comes to give brightness to the whole world, and the morning guard takes shape, which is the rays of the sun, and the sun of the earth goes out and receives its brightness to light up the whole face of the earth. And they showed me this calculation of the sun's going, and the gates which it enters. These are the great gates of the computation of the hours of the year. For this reason, the sun is a great creation, whose circuit lasts 28 years, and begins again from the beginning. Chapter 16. Those men showed me the other course, that of the moon, 12 great gates, crowned from west to east, by which the moon goes in and out of the customary times. It goes in at the first gate to the western places of the sun, by the first gates with 31 days exactly, by the second gates with 31 days exactly, by the third with 30 days exactly, by the fourth with 30 days exactly, by the fifth with 31 days exactly, by the sixth with 31 days exactly, by the seventh with 30 days exactly, by the eighth with 31 days perfectly, by the ninth with 31 days exactly, by the 10th with 30 days perfectly, by the 11th with 31 days exactly, by the 12th with 28 days exactly. And it goes through the western gates in the order and number of the eastern, and accomplishes the 365 and a quarter days of the solar year, while the lunar year has 354, and there are wanting to it 12 days of the solar circle, which are the lunar epochs of the whole year. Thus, too, the great circle contains 532 years. The quarter of a day is omitted for 3 years. The fourth fulfills it exactly. Therefore they are taken outside of Shamayim for 3 years, and are not added to the number of days, because they change the time of the years to 2 new months towards completion, to 2 others towards diminution. And when the western gates are finished, it returns and goes to the eastern, to the lights, and goes thus day and night about the heavenly circles, lower than all circles, swifter than the heavenly winds, and spirits, and elements, and malachs flying. Each malach had 6 wings. It has a 7-fold course in 19 years. Chapter 17. In the midst of the Shamayims, I saw armed soldiers serving Yahuwah with timphana and organs, with incessant voice, with sweet and incessant voice, and various singing, which it is impossible to describe, and which astonishes every mind. So wonderful and marvelous is the singing of those malachs, and I was delighted listening to it. Chapter 18. The men took me on to the fifth Shamayim, and placed me, and there I saw many and countless soldiers called Grigori, of human appearance, and their size was greater than that of great giants, and their faces withered, and the silence of their mouths perpetual, and there was no service on the fifth Shamayim. And I said to the men who were with me, wherefore are these very withered, and their faces melancholy, and their mouths silent? And wherefore is there no service on this Shamayim? And they said to me, these are the Grigori, who with their prince Satanal rejected Yahuwah of light. And after them are those who are held in great darkness on the second Shamayim. And 3 of them went down onto earth from Yahuwah's throne to the place Hermon, and broke through their vows on the shoulder of the hill Hermon, and saw the daughters of men how good they are, and took to themselves wives, and befouled the earth with their deeds, who in all times of their age made lawlessness and mixing, and giants are born, and marvelously big men, and great enmity. And therefore Elohim judged them with great judgment, and they weep for their brethren, and they will be punished on Yahuwah's great day. And I said to the Grigori, I saw your brethren, and their works, and their great torments, and I prayed for them. But Yahuwah has condemned them to be under earth, till Shamayim and earth shall end forever. And I said, wherefore do you wait, brethren, and do not serve before Yahuwah's face, and have not put your services before Yahuwah's face, lest you anger Yahuwah utterly? And they listened to my admonition, and spoke to the 4 ranks in Shamayim. And lo, as I stood with those 2 men, 4 trumpets trumpeted together with great voice, and the Grigori broke into song with one voice, and their voice went up before Yahuwah pitifully and affectingly. Chapter 19. And thence those men took me, and bore me up onto the 6th Shamayim, and there I saw 7 bands of malachs, very bright and very glorious, and their faces shining more than the sun's shining, glistening, and there is no difference in their faces, or behavior, or manner of dress. And these make the orders, and learn the goings of the stars, and the alteration of the moon, or revolution of the sun, and the good government of the world. And when they see evil doing, they make commandments and instruction, and sweet and loud singing, and all songs of praise. These are the archangels who are above angels, or malachs. Measure all life in Shamayim and on earth, and the malachs who are appointed, and the malachs who are appointed over seasons and years. The malachs who are over rivers and sea, and who are over the fruits of the earth, and the malachs who are over every grass, giving food to all, to every living thing, and the malachs who write all the souls of men, and all their deeds, and their lives before Yahuwah's face. In their midst are 6 phoenixes, and 6 cherubim, and 6 six-winged ones, continually, with one voice singing one voice. And it is not possible to describe their singing. And they rejoice before Yahuwah at his footstool. Chapter 20. And those 2 men lifted me up thence onto the 7th Shamayim, and I saw there a very great light, and fiery troops of great archangels, incorporeal forces, and dominions, orders and governments, cherubim and seraphim, thrones and many-eyed ones, 9 regiments, the Ionite stations of light. And I became afraid, and began to tremble with great terror. And those men took me, and led me after them, and said to me, Have courage, Enoch, do not fear, and showed me Yahuwah from afar, sitting on his very high throne. For what is there on the 10th Shamayim, since Yahuwah dwells here? On the 10th Shamayim is Elohim. In the Hebrew tongue, he is called Aravat. And all the heavenly troops would come and stand on the 10 steps according to their rank, and would bow down to Yahuwah, and would again go to their places in joy and felicity, singing songs in the boundless light with small and tender voices, gloriously serving him. Chapter 21. And the cherubim and seraphim standing about the throne, the 6-winged and many-eyed ones, do not depart, standing before Yahuwah's face, doing his will, and cover his whole throne, singing with gentle voice before Yahuwah's face, Holy, 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 Kadesh, Kadesh, Kadesh. Yahuwah, ruler of Sabaoth. Shamayims and earth are full of thy glory. When I saw all these things, those men said to me, Enoch, thus far it is commanded us to journey with thee. And those men went away from me, and thereupon I saw them not. And I remained alone at the end of the 7th Shamayim, and became afraid, and fell on my face, and said to myself, Woe is me! What has befallen me? And Yahuwah sent one of his glorious ones, the archangel Gabriel, and he said to me, Have courage, Enoch. Do not fear. Arise before Yahuwah's face into eternity. Arise, come with me. And I answered him and said in myself, My Yahuwah, my soul is departed from me, my terror and trembling. And I called to the men who led me up to this place. On them I relied. And it is with them I go before Yahuwah's face. And Gabriel caught me up, as a leaf caught up by the wind, and placed me before Yahuwah's face. And I saw the 8th Shamayim, which is called in the Hebrew tongue Muzalov, changer of the seasons, of drought, and of wet, and of the 12 signs of the zodiac, which are above the 7th Shamayim. And I saw the 9th Shamayim, which is called in Hebrew Kushavim, where are the heavenly homes of the 12 signs of the zodiac. Chapter 22. On the 10th Shamayim, Aravoth, I saw the appearance of Yahuwah's face, like iron made to glow in fire, and brought out, emitting sparks, and it burns. Thus I saw Yahuwah's face. But Yahuwah's face is ineffable, marvelous, and very awful, and very, very terrible. And who am I to tell of Yahuwah's unspeakable being and of his very wonderful face? And I cannot tell the quantity of his many instructions and various voices. Yahuwah's throne very great, and not made with hands, nor the quantity of those standing round him, troops of cherubim and seraphim, nor their incessant singing, nor his immutable beauty. And who shall tell of the ineffable greatness of his glory? I fell prone and bowed down to Yahuwah, and Yahuwah with his lips said to me, Have courage, Enoch, do not fear. Arise and stand before my face into eternity. And the archistrage, Michael, lifted me up and led me to before Yahuwah's face. And Yahuwah said to his servants, tempting them, Let Enoch stand before my face into eternity. And the glorious ones bowed down to Yahuwah and said, Let Enoch go according to thy word. And Yahuwah said to Michael, Go and take Enoch from out his earthly garments, and anoint him with my sweet ointment, and put him into the garments of my glory. And Michael did thus, as Yahuwah told him. He anointed me and dressed me, and the appearance of that ointment is more than the great light, and his ointment is like sweet dew, and its smell mild, shining like the sun's ray. And I looked at myself, and was like one of his glorious ones. And Yahuwah summoned one of his archangels, by name Pravul, whose knowledge was quicker in wisdom than the other archangels, who wrote all the deeds of Yahuwah. And Yahuwah said to Pravul, Bring out the books from my storehouses, and a reed of quick writing, and give it to Enoch, and deliver to him the choice and comforting books out of thy hand. Chapter 23. And he was telling me all the works of Shamayim, earth and sea, and all the elements, their passages and goings, and the thunderings of the thunders, the sun and moon, the goings and changes of the stars, the seasons, years, days, and hours, the risings of the wind, the numbers of the Malachs, and the formation of their songs, and all human things, the tongue of every human song and life, the commandments, instructions, and sweet-voiced singings, and all things that is fitting to learn. And Pravuel told me, all the things that I have told thee, we have written. Sit and write all the souls of mankind, however many of them are born, and the places prepared for them to eternity. For all souls are prepared to eternity before the formation of the world. And all double 30 days and 30 nights. And I wrote out all things exactly, and wrote 366 books. Chapter 24. And Yahuwah summoned me, and said to me, Enoch, sit down on my left with Gabriel. And I bowed down to Yahuwah. And Yahuwah spoke to me, Enoch, beloved, all thou seest, all things that are standing finished, I tell to thee, even before the very beginning, all that I created from non-being, and visible things from invisible. Hear, Enoch, and take in these my words. For not to my Malachs have I told my secret, and I have not told them their rise, nor my endless realm, nor have they understood my creating, which I tell thee today. For before all things were visible, I alone used to go about in the invisible things, like the sun from east to west, and from west to east. But even the sun has peace in itself, while I found no peace, because I was creating all things, and I conceived the thought of placing foundations, and of creating visible creation. Chapter 25. I commanded in the very lowest parts that visible things should come down from invisible, and a door came down very great. And I beheld him, and lo, he had a belly of great light. And I said to him, Become undone, Adoil, and let the visible come out of thee. And he came undone, and a great light came out. And I was in the midst of the great light. And as there is born light from light, there came forth a great age, and showed all creation, which I had thought to create. And I saw that it was good. And I placed for myself a throne, and took my seat on it, and said to the light, Go thou up higher, and fix thyself high above the throne, and be a foundation to the highest things. And above the light there is nothing else. And then I bent up and looked up from my throne. Chapter 26. And I summoned the very lowest a second time, and said, Let Archas come forth hard. And he came forth hard from the invisible. And Archas came forth hard, heavy, and very red. And I said, Be opened, Archas, and let there be born from thee. And he came undone, and age came forth, very great and very dark, bearing the creation of all lower things. And I saw that it was good, and said to him, Go thou down below, and make thyself firm, and be for a foundation for the lower things. And it happened, and he went down and fixed himself, and became the foundation for the lower things, and below the darkness there is nothing else. Chapter 27. And I commanded that there should be taken from light and darkness. And I said, Be thick. And it became thus. And I spread it out with the light. And it became water. And I spread it out over the darkness, below the light. And then I made firm the waters, that is to say, the bottomless. And I made foundation of light around the water, and created 7 circles from inside, and imaged it, the water, like crystal, wet and dry, that is to say, like glass. And the circumcision of the waters and the other elements, I showed each one of them its road, and the 7 stars, each one of them its Shamayim, that they go thus. And I saw that it was good. And I separated between light and between darkness, that is to say, in the midst of the water, hither and thither. And I said to the light that it should be the day, and to the darkness that it should be the night. And there was the evening, and there was morning, the first day. And I made firm the heavenly circle. Chapter 28. And I made firm the heavenly circle, and made that the lower water, which is under Shamayim, collect itself together into one whole, and that the chaos became dry. And it became so. Out of the waves I created, rock hard and big, and from the rock I piled up the dry, and the dry I called earth, and the midst of the earth I called abyss, that is to say, the bottomless. I collected the sea in one place, and bound it together with a yoke. And I said to the sea, Behold, I give thee thy eternal limits, and thou shalt not break loose from thy component parts. Thus I made fast the firmament. This day I called me the first created. Chapter 29. And for all the heavenly troops I imaged the image, an essence of fire, and my eye looked at the very hard, firm rock, and from the gleam of my eye the lightning received its wonderful nature, which is both fire and water in fire, and one does not put out the other, nor does the one dry up the other. Therefore the lightning is brighter than the sun, softer than water, and firmer than hard rock. And from the rock I cut off a great fire, And from the fire I created the orders of the incorporeal, 10 troops of angels, Malachs. And their weapons are fiery, and their raiment a burning flame. And I commanded that each one should stand in his order. And from out of the order of Malachs, having turned away with the order that was under him, conceived an impossible thought to place his throne higher than the clouds above the earth, that he might become equal in rank to my power. And I threw him out from the height with his Malachs, and he was flying in the air continuously above the bottomless.
Just keep